Hey, so today Greg has asked me to do another drawing for you guys, and I thought today we would do something called falling objects. It's a one-point perspective drawing of a cityscape, basically, and the idea is to draw whatever city you would like, but have it so that you would have falling objects falling down from the sky. The view we'd be calling would be a bird's eye view. So basically it would be as if you were a bird flying above this city, and this is the view that you would see looking down. So we're way, way, way high up in the sky, around where the clouds would be, where the birds would fly, that type of idea. So my falling objects is pizza, because I love pizza. And so that's what I've drawn, and I'm going to take you through the steps to show you how to do this drawing. We're going to go quickly today. I'll draw in pen, so I'm just using a Sharpie marker, or if you have the micron markers, those can work as well. And it's just a fine one. It's not a very thick marker. I've already started to draw it in pencil just to save ourselves a bit of time, but I was going to show you a couple of tricks. So basically we're doing a one-point perspective. The idea is that all our lines will converge towards the one point, which is, I've decided and picked it to be approximately here, almost in the middle of my page, roughly thereabouts. What I'm going to do first though is I'm going to use the width of my ruler, and that will be my road from down below. So I'm going to draw in the ink to show you so it can stand out. So there is one side of my street, and I'm actually just going to use the thickness of the ruler to draw the other side. And I'm going to draw a teeny tiny sidewalk because our view is quite high. It is above a city. Some of those buildings can be quite tall. So I'm making myself a teeny tiny little sidewalk down at the bottom of the road, and then down here as well. So that would be my sidewalk. Right here is where I've determined will be my one-point perspective. So to show you so it stands out, I'm just going to quickly draw the rooftops of my buildings, and I've picked basically some squares and rectangles. I have decided to keep them roughly all in the same lineup. So you can see here the back of the buildings will all line up. Some of these buildings will be attached together, and then some will be slightly separated from one another. And it's entirely up to you how you would like to draw your buildings, but this is just a quick, rough idea. So basically, I am putting them at different building depths, and that's what I'm drawing right now. And once I put all four sides in, you will be able to see, for each building, you'll be able to see and get a better idea of what I'm trying to do here. And it's okay to go right off the page as well. If you want, you can freehand this, but because they are buildings, architecture tends to look a little bit better when you use a ruler for your edges, but you can freehand if you'd like. So you can see here I am freehanding. My freehand is not as great as I would like it to be. I tend to have a wobbly line, but you can get the idea. So these are the outline of the buildings that I want to do. I have the same thing across the street. Now technically, in a cityscape, you would have more buildings kind of in behind here, right? Because as you go into the as we call it, the four corners of a city, or the major streets of a city, you will find that there are buildings upon buildings and rows upon rows of these buildings in a cityscape. So technically, for argument's sake, you could draw more squares and rectangles beyond this line. For the sake of time, I have not done that. So I'm just going to freehand the buildings that are on this side of the street. And oops, sorry, I'm going to draw these in quickly so you can get an idea of what my cityscape will start to look like. Now remember, bird's eye view. This means that as if I'm like a superhero or a bird, I am flying above our city, and this is the view that I see looking down. If any of you have ever been in an airplane and you take off and you have the fortunate experience to go over top of a city, you will actually see that the buildings kind of look a little bit like this, and people are teeny tiny, super, super small. So that's the idea that we're going for. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to pencil. I am going to draw darkly though, so you can see. The idea is if this here, this spot right here, is my 1 point perspective, my vanishing point, every single corner that I can see that does not go through a building is going to converge to this point. So to give you an example, this building right here, this corner to this point. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop drawing each building when I hit my little sidewalk here. That's this double line. So this corner to this line, like that. Then because this is technically an alleyway and the buildings are not attached together here, we will see part of the side of this building. So that corner to here. And basically what's happening is because we're floating above, this line disappears in behind this building. This corner to here. And remember, again, I am stopping at the sidewalk. This corner. And it does look weird because it is a very forced perspective. It's very extreme. This corner of the building. This corner we don't see because it is tucked in behind this other building. They're actually attached. These guys are attached, so we're only going to have a little bit of the side of the building showing up here. It's going to go here. And this other corner to the building is going to be somewhere off my paper. So I'm just going to guess that it's somewhere around here, and I'm going to draw that line off. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So this corner to the vanishing point, but I am stopping at the sidewalk. This corner to the vanishing point, and again, I am stopping at the sidewalk. This corner, which would be the front, this would be the fronts of all the buildings right along here. This would be what we see as the actual squares and rectangles is the tops. I don't draw this corner because you would see if I started to draw, I would actually be going through this building. So that means we're not going to see that corner. It's part of the building that is hidden from this part of this building. So this corner, stop at the sidewalk. And same thing, this corner right here is being hidden with this particular perspective from this part of the building. So I'm going to say that the other corner of my building is somewhere off my paper here. And I'm just going to draw like that. For the other side, if it helps you to flip your paper around, you can do that, but it's the same idea. So I'm going to do this a little bit quicker now. And again, I am stopping at the sidewalk. The buildings, all my buildings are going to go right to the sidewalk. So this corner, this corner, this corner, it stops because I have a gap between my buildings here. So that's why we will see this corner of the building. They're not, those two buildings are not joined together. They're not attached. So we'll see this part, which is the side of the building. This corner. This corner. And I'm going to say for this building right here that it ended right at the edge of my paper. So I'm going to draw that line right there. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. This back corner, because there's an alleyway, so we will see part of that building here. And same thing with this building here. I'm going to say that the edge of this building is actually the edge of my paper, and I'm going to go there. Now the only other thing that I have to do is for this building here, I have to draw the bottom of it. If you can see, we've got a bit of a gap here in between our two buildings. And I'm just going to darken this so you can see it. So here's the top of the building. Here's the front of the building. This is the bottom of the building. And so the same thing with this guy. Because there is a gap in between these two buildings, I'm going to be drawing a line from this spot where it hits the sidewalk. And any line that we draw in 1 point perspective that is not converging is going to be parallel or perpendicular to one another. So this is the top of the building. So the base of this actual building is going to be parallel. So it's going to look exactly like that. So there's the bottom of that building. And I'll just darken this in so you're able to see it. Okay. There. And same thing with this building. This one's a little bit hard to see because it's so teeny tiny. But here's the edge of this building right here. This line that I'm darkening is part of the front of the building. This is the bottom, that is the front of the building, and then this is going to be the corner, which becomes the side. So right down here, where this spot hits our sidewalk, I'm going to draw a line. That right there translates to that right there. So this all here is the side of the building. We're going to do the same thing here. This is the top of our building, so the bottom of our building is going to be parallel to it, but I'm going to take it from this bottom corner and draw my line up. And there is the side of the building that we actually get to see. And this right here is the front of it. So hopefully that makes sense. Now what we're going to do, and we're going to do it kind of quickly so it doesn't take up a whole lot of time, is we're going to add some detail. I'm just going to erase this line here for you. I'm going to erase my vanishing point so it's not as dark. So in the original, we have some details on the building, whether this is an all glass building or this is glass and steel. Basically, as we get closer to our vanishing point, which was down here, all of these lines are going to get closer and closer together. Okay, you can see as it goes down, these lines get closer and closer. The detail gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Our cars are teeny tiny little, they look like just basically dashes. This is the medians, I guess you could say, down the middle of a 2-lane on either side. So let's say it's a very wide city street, like how you have kind of Yonge Street in downtown Toronto. You've got 2 lanes going one way and 2 lanes going another way. That's what we have here. And we got space too for our bicycles, okay? But bicycles are so small at this point, we wouldn't see those. So I've done trees in the middle of our road here. And that's what these are. This would be as if we're looking at a tree, looking at it straight down. So I basically, what I did for these areas is I just drew long dashes, if you will. And you can make them any length you would like. I just decided to make them roughly all the same size, going all the way through my 4-lane street, and then just wiggly lines. They almost look like maybe cotton balls or puffy clouds, and then spokes going out from the center. And that's what kind of tells us, sometimes when you do architectural drawings, you'll see that vegetation or trees are drawn this way. And so that's just how I kind of drew these, so that we knew this was kind of like a median and I'm looking down to them. Then what I did is I started to add detail. So for this building right here, we just had it as if these were all maybe mirrored. Maybe it was like one of the banks that we get in the business district, and they're all mirrored down the side. So with that, I did use my pencil first. And you just have to remember that these lines, when you draw across the front of the building, they have to be parallel to this line and this line. So basically you would use your ruler and go through, and as you get closer and closer to your sidewalk, these lines that you're drawing get closer and closer together. And technically they would kind of blur all together, and you wouldn't really know what you were looking at that point. When we're doing the lines that are coming down, so let's say it's bits of steel, remember it's got to go to your vanishing point, and that was this. It was right here originally. So this line would go like this. They would all go towards that line. And if you use your ruler, that will be very, very helpful to make sure that they get to where they need to go. Then when we want to draw some detail up on the roof, Like this one here has a little garden patio and some lounge chairs out. This one has an actual pool, so maybe this was a condominium and we've got a little garden with a bench area and some lounge chairs, or chaise lounge, I guess you would say. Then we would draw that in, but you draw it the same way as if you were looking right down to it. So I've got the thickness here, which I guess would be the wall of the penthouse or the top of the building. So if you wanted to do those green roofs, the live roofs that we see coming that are quite popular, you can draw a rectangle and another rectangle and fill it up with some vegetation and some plants. So this would be a tree here. And when I do drawings like this, I like to do everything in pencil first and then outline in the marker afterwards, and then you can color it in. So you can see in this drawing that I've added a little bit of detail with the pool and the chairs. I've even added a tower of some sort. So anything goes. You can add whatever you want to the rooftops of your building. The thing that you have to remember is when you choose to draw your falling object, in my case it was pizza, the further you are away from your vanishing point, the larger it is. So this would be as if this piece of pizza was literally right by your eyes and you've literally just dropped it and it's falling. This piece, because it's smaller, is technically further away. As you get closer to your vanishing point, all the objects get smaller. Remember, these are cars, okay? So if we were to draw these little tiny tables or these little chairs way down here, they would be quite small. They wouldn't be that large. They'd be a lot smaller, and we'd probably barely be able to see them. That's why when you're in an airplane and you're looking down and you see a city, in those first couple of moments when you're taking off, people look tiny like little ants. That's where that expression kind of comes from. So the next thing you would do, once you have this drawn and you have that detail in, is you figure out what falling object do you want to do. You could do donuts. So you could draw one that has jelly on top and sprinkles. And it doesn't all have to be the same object. It could be pieces of chicken. It could be books. It could be actual superheroes. You could draw superheroes flying around. The idea is to draw the objects, and as they get closer to that vanishing point, they would get smaller and smaller and smaller. And sometimes this is easy to communicate when the object is all the same, like it is with the pizza here. Hopefully this all makes sense and you enjoy it and have some fun with this. This is a drawing that we have always done in art class, and it's also one that I did way back when I was in school, and we've always had fun with it, trying to come up with different objects that we could see falling from the sky from our one-point perspective, bird's eye view.